Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
Grant Solon stands in my foyer like he owns the place. Italian leather shoes on our welcome mat, designer suit that costs more than my monthly mortgage payment. The man radiates entitlement from every pore, and right now he's delivering what he clearly thinks is wonderful news. I'm promoting Mira to my personal assistant, he announces, chest puffed out like a peacock. She'll travel with me full-time, immediate start. My wife beams beside him, practically glowing with excitement. 22 years of marriage, and I haven't seen her this animated since our daughter Emma got into college. She's wearing the red dress she bought for special occasions, the one that still has tags on it from 3 months ago. I extend my hand to Grant, watching his confident smile. Perfect timing, I say, gripping his palm firmly. I just accepted a position on your company's board of directors. I'll see you both at Monday's meeting. The change is instantaneous. Grant's grip falters like he's suddenly holding a live wire. Mira's radiant smile collapses into something resembling confusion mixed with panic. Neither of them knew about my new role, and the silence stretches uncomfortably long. Board position, Mira finally manages, her voice pitched higher than usual. Financial oversight, I explain, still holding Grant's increasingly sweaty hand. The chairman called last month. Seems there have been some irregularities in expense reporting. They need someone with forensic accounting experience to conduct a thorough audit. Grant tries to recover his composure, but there's a nervous twitch starting near his left eye. I wasn't aware the board was expanding. Emergency appointment. I release his hand and watch him resist the urge to wipe it on his expensive pants. 20 years of forensic accounting experience tends to open doors when companies need answers quickly. The irony isn't lost on me. For months, Mira has been coming home late, citing important projects and client meetings, special assignments that required weekend work and overnight conferences. She'd grown distant, distracted, always checking her phone and stepping outside to take calls from the office. I'd started noticing things. Hotel receipts in her purse for cities that didn't match her supposed business trips. Credit card charges at restaurants I'd never been to, always for 2 people. New clothes and jewelry that appeared without explanation. Gifts she claimed were rewards for exceptional performance. Being a forensic accountant means I notice patterns, numbers that don't add up, stories that have holes. And my wife's recent behavior had more red flags than a communist parade. So when Chairman Peterson called about irregularities in executive expense accounts, I didn't hesitate to accept. The timing seemed almost providential. Well, Grant clears his throat, trying to regain control of the conversation. I'm sure we'll have plenty to discuss at the board meeting. Mira's promotion is effective immediately, so she'll need to pack for our trip to Chicago tomorrow. Chicago, I repeat, filing that information away. Another client conference? Strategic planning session, Mira jumps in quickly. Very important for the company's expansion plans. I nod thoughtfully. I'll make sure to review all travel expenses during my audit. The board is particularly interested in ensuring every dollar is properly documented and justified. Grant's face has gone slightly pale, and he's checking his expensive watch like he suddenly has somewhere urgent to be. We should probably get going. Early morning flight to prepare for. Of course, I step aside to let them pass. Congratulations on the promotion, honey. I'm sure you've earned every bit of it. Mira kisses my cheek, but her lips feel cold against my skin. Thank you. I'll call you from Chicago. I'll be here, I say, watching them walk to Grant's BMW. Working on the audit. After they drive away, I pour myself a whiskey and sit in my home office, surrounded by financial documents and computer screens. The irony is almost beautiful in its symmetry. While my wife was planning her escape with her boss, I was being handed the tools to destroy them both. The audit materials are spread across my desk like evidence in a crime scene investigation. And in many ways, that's exactly what they are. Monday morning arrives with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes everything seem sharper, more focused. I'm in my office by 6, coffee steaming beside stacks of expense reports and travel receipts. The company's financial records tell a fascinating story once you know how to read between the lines. Grant Solon's expense reports don't match his calendar. Hotels in cities with no scheduled client meetings. Dinners for 2 billed as business conferences. First-class companion tickets purchased with corporate funds. The pattern is so obvious, I'm amazed no one caught it before. But the real revelation comes when I cross-reference the hotel dates with Mira's passport records. Every suspicious trip, every unexplained expense, corresponds perfectly with her travel schedule. Her name isn't on any of the corporate bookings, but her passport stamps tell the complete story. My phone buzzes with a text from Mira. Chicago is beautiful. Productive meetings all day. Miss you. I respond, miss you too. Having a productive day myself. Learning so much. The IT department has been incredibly helpful. Apparently, when employees think they've deleted email threads, they're mistaken. Corporate servers maintain backups of everything. And with proper authorization, forensic accountants can access quite a lot of interesting correspondence. Grant's emails to Mira started innocently enough. Praise for her work performance, invitations to important meetings, requests for assistance with special projects. But the tone shifted dramatically about 3 months into her employment. You deserve so much more than what you're getting, reads one message from January. A woman with your talents should have a corner office and equity options. The VP position will be available soon, promises another from February. I can make sure you're the leading candidate. By March, the messages had become explicitly personal. Dinner invitations that had nothing to do with business, compliments about her appearance, suggestions for weekend getaways disguised as strategic planning sessions. Mira's responses were enthusiastic and grateful. She thanked him for believing in her potential. She expressed frustration with being undervalued and overlooked for promotions. She agreed that she deserved better opportunities. The hotel receipts start appearing in April. I print everything, organizing the evidence into chronological order. 20 years of forensic accounting has taught me that financial crimes always leave paper trails. Emotional affairs that become physical relationships leave even clearer evidence. Grant had been clever about the bookings. He used his corporate credit card for his own room, then paid cash for Mira's accommodations. But cash transactions at luxury hotels require identification, and hotel security cameras capture everything. The timestamps on her room key activations match his perfectly. More interesting is the stock trading pattern I've uncovered. Grant's brother-in-law, David Solin, has been remarkably lucky with his investment timing. He bought shares in 3 different companies just weeks before Grant's firm announced acquisition deals. He sold his positions in 2 other companies just days before disappointing earnings reports. The Securities and Exchange Commission has specific terms for this kind of pattern. They call it insider trading, and they take it very seriously. My office door opens, and Chairman Peterson walks in, carrying his own cup of coffee. He's a man in his 70s who built his fortune through careful attention to detail and zero tolerance for corporate misconduct. How's the audit progressing? He asks, settling into the chair across from my desk. Thoroughly, I reply, gesturing to the organized stacks of evidence. The irregularities are more extensive than we initially suspected. Peterson examines some of the documents, his expression growing increasingly grim. How much are we talking about? Conservative estimate? $200,000 in inappropriate expenses over 18 months. But the potential SEC violations could expose the company to much larger penalties. SEC violations? I explained the stock trading patterns, showing him the correlation between Grant's access to confidential information and his brother-in-law's investment decisions. Peterson's face hardens with each detail. What's your recommendation? He asks, finally. Immediate termination for cause. Full cooperation with any federal investigation. Complete documentation of all violations to protect the company from regulatory penalties. Peterson nods slowly. The board meets Wednesday morning. Can you present your findings then? I'll have everything ready. After he leaves, I sit back in my chair and consider the beautiful irony of the situation. While Grant was promising my wife a corner office and equity options in exchange for her companionship, he was actually destroying any possibility of delivering on those promises. His misconduct would inevitably lead to his termination, taking her supposed promotion down with him. The personal assistant position he'd offered her wasn't actually a promotion at all. I'd researched the job description and salary range. It was lateral movement at best, with no advancement potential and no equity participation. Mira had traded her marriage and her reputation for the privilege of carrying Grant's briefcase and managing his travel schedule. My phone rings, interrupting my analysis. Mira's name appears on the caller ID. How's Chicago? I ask, keeping my voice neutral. Exhausting, she sighs. These strategic planning sessions are incredibly intensive. Grant has us working from early morning until late at night. Sounds demanding, I agree. Then where are you staying? The Palmer House, she answers quickly. Grant booked a block of rooms for the entire team. I'm already pulling up the hotel's website, checking their room rates. The Palmer House charges $800 per night for standard accommodations. Grant's expense report shows a charge for $1,200, which corresponds to their luxury suite pricing. That's generous of the company, I observe. Luxury accommodations for strategic planning. Well, you know how Grant is about making sure everyone is comfortable and focused? I'm learning quite a lot about how Grant operates, I reply. The audit is revealing some very interesting patterns. There's a pause on her end. What kind of patterns? Travel expenses mostly. Some unusual correlations between executive trips and stock market activities. Nothing you'd find interesting, I'm sure. No, probably not, she agrees. But I can hear the tension creeping into her voice. I should go. Early morning session tomorrow. Sleep well, I tell her. I'll be here working on the audit. After hanging up, I return to the financial records spread across my desk. Tomorrow, I'll start preparing the presentation that will end Grant's career and consequently destroy the foundation of whatever future he'd promised my wife. The evidence is overwhelming, the patterns undeniable, and the consequences inevitable. Sometimes justice arrives wearing the disguise of professional responsibility. Wednesday morning arrives gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. The boardroom at Solon Industries occupies the entire top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city. 12 leather chairs surround a mahogany table that probably costs more than most people's cars. I arrive early, setting up my laptop and organizing presentation materials. The evidence is compiled into a comprehensive report that reads like a crime novel, complete with timelines, financial documentation, and photographic evidence. Grant enters at exactly 9 o'clock, looking confident and relaxed. He's wearing another expensive suit, this one charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes. His smile falters slightly when he sees me, but he recovers quickly. Silas, he nods, taking his usual seat at the table. Looking forward to your presentation. I think you'll find it illuminating, I reply, connecting my laptop to the projection system. The other board members file in over the next few minutes. Peterson takes his position at the head of the table, calling the meeting to order promptly at 9:15. Today we're reviewing the findings of our financial audit, Peterson announces. Silas has been conducting a comprehensive examination of our executive expense accounts and related activities. I stand, activating the first slide of my presentation. Thank you, Chairman Peterson. Over the past 2 weeks, I've identified significant irregularities in expense reporting, travel documentation, and related financial activities. The first section covers Grant's travel expenses, hotel charges that don't correspond to scheduled business activities, restaurant bills for 2 people in cities where he claimed to be attending solo conferences, first-class companion tickets purchased with corporate funds but not properly documented. Grant shifts uncomfortably in his chair, but maintains his composed expression. These irregularities span 18 months, I continue, with total inappropriate expenses exceeding $200,000. Board member Jennifer Walsh raises her hand. Are you suggesting these were personal expenses charged to the company? I'm documenting expenses that lack proper business justification, I clarify, advancing to the next slide. The pattern becomes clearer when we examine the timing and locations. I display a map showing Grant's travel destinations, with red dots marking cities where no client meetings or business activities were scheduled. The pattern is damning in its obviousness. Furthermore, I continue, these trips correspond precisely with the travel schedule of another company employee. Grant's face has lost its color, and I notice his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. The next section addresses the stock trading irregularities. I show the timeline of David Solin's investment activities, correlating perfectly with Grant's access to confidential acquisition information and earnings data. The Securities and Exchange Commission defines this pattern as insider trading, I explain. That the potential penalties include criminal charges and substantial financial penalties that could impact the entire company. The room has gone completely silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning system. Board members are studying the evidence with expressions ranging from concern to outright alarm. Peterson clears his throat. Grant, do you have any response to these findings? Grant straightens in his chair, attempting to project confidence. These are serious allegations, and I'd like time to review the documentation thoroughly before responding. The documentation is comprehensive, I reply, distributing copies of the full report.
She left this in your apron. You didn't even throw it away.
I forgot.
You forgot a woman's lipstick in your...
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Every expense is verified through hotel records, credit card statements, and travel documentation. The stock trading patterns are confirmed through SEC filings and brokerage records. Board member Thomas Chen flips through his copy, shaking his head. This is incredibly detailed. How did this go undetected for so long? The expenses were individually approved through normal channels, I explain. The pattern only becomes apparent through comprehensive analysis of the complete timeline. Grant makes one last attempt at damage control. Even if there were some inappropriate expenses, they represent a tiny fraction of our overall budget. This seems like an overreaction to minor accounting irregularities. $200,000 in fraudulent expenses isn't minor, Peterson responds sharply. And the potential SEC violations could result in penalties exceeding $10 million. I advance to the final slide, showing photographs of Grant and Mira entering and leaving hotels in Chicago, Denver, and Atlanta. The timestamps correspond exactly to the expense reports in question. The evidence demonstrates a clear pattern of using company resources for personal activities, I conclude. The financial and legal risks to the company are substantial and immediate. The vote is unanimous. Termination for cause, effective immediately. Grant's employment contract includes a fraud exemption clause, voiding his severance package and golden parachute provisions. Security escorts him from the building before lunch, carrying his personal belongings in a cardboard box. I'm packing up my presentation materials when my phone buzzes with a text from Mira. Coming home early? Flight lands at 6, I respond. I'll pick you up at the airport. We have a lot to discuss. The airport terminal buzzes with typical Wednesday evening chaos. Business travelers rushing to catch flights, families reuniting, taxi drivers holding signs with passenger names. I wait near baggage claim, watching passengers emerge from the security area. Mira appears looking tired and confused, pulling her designer suitcase behind her. She's wearing the same red dress from Sunday, but it looks wrinkled now, less vibrant. Her usual confident stride seems uncertain. How was Chicago? I ask, taking her suitcase. Complicated, she replies, avoiding eye contact. Grant had to leave suddenly. Some kind of emergency at the office. I heard about that, I say, leading her toward the parking garage. Board meeting this morning. Quite eventful. She stops walking. You were at the board meeting? I presented my audit findings, I explain, continuing toward the car. Very thorough investigation. The board found the results quite compelling. Mira hurries to catch up, her heels clicking rapidly on the concrete floor. What kind of findings? Expense irregularities, travel documentation issues, some concerning patterns involving stock trading and confidential information. I unlock the car and load her suitcase into the trunk. Mira stands beside the passenger door, looking increasingly pale. What does that mean for Grant? She asks quietly. Grant was terminated for cause this morning, I reply, starting the engine. Security escorted him from the building around noon. The drive home passes in uncomfortable silence. Mira stares out the passenger window while I navigate evening traffic. Her phone buzzes repeatedly, but she doesn't check the messages. Our house looks exactly the same as when we left it Sunday evening, but everything has changed. I park in the driveway and carry Mira's suitcase to the front door. Inside, I pour myself a whiskey and offer one to Mira. She declines, settling onto the living room couch with her hands folded in her lap. The board meeting, she begins carefully. What exactly did you present? Financial documentation, I reply, sitting across from her. Hotel receipts, travel records, credit card statements. Very detailed timeline of Grant's activities over the past 18 months. And they terminated him based on expense reports? They terminated him based on fraud, I correct. $200,000 in inappropriate expenses, plus potential SEC violations that could have cost the company millions in penalties. Mira's phone buzzes again. This time she checks it, and I watch her expression change from confusion to something approaching panic. Problems? I ask. HR wants to meet with me tomorrow morning, she says, setting the phone aside. They're reviewing all positions associated with Grant's department. That makes sense, I agree. When executives are terminated for fraud, companies typically review all related activities and personnel. What does that mean for my promotion? I take a sip of whiskey, considering how to explain the reality of her situation. Mira, there was no promotion. Personal assistant isn't an advancement from your current position. It's lateral movement with no equity participation and no advancement potential. That's not what Grant said. He promised me a VP position, corner office, stock options. Grant promised you many things he couldn't deliver, I reply, and his termination makes all of those promises meaningless. Her phone rings and Grant's name appears on the caller ID. She looks at me uncertainly before answering. Grant? What happened? I just heard... She listens for several minutes, her expression growing increasingly distressed. But you said, I thought we had an understanding. What am I supposed to do now? I can hear Grant's voice through the phone, agitated and defensive, but I can't make out specific words. Mira's responses become shorter, more desperate. This can't be happening, she says finally. You promised me everything would work out. After hanging up, she sits in silence for several minutes. When she finally looks at me, her eyes are filled with tears. You knew, she whispers. You knew the whole time. I suspected, I admit. The late nights, the mysterious trips, the new clothes and jewelry. You weren't very careful about covering your tracks. So you took the board position to destroy us? I took the board position because they needed a forensic accountant to investigate financial irregularities, I correct. The fact that those irregularities involved your boyfriend was just coincidence. He's not my boyfriend. It was a professional relationship that became complicated. Hotel rooms in 3 different cities suggest it became more than complicated. Mira wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. What happens now? That depends on HR's review tomorrow, I reply. Your employment was tied to Grant's sponsorship. With him terminated for fraud, your position may be eliminated. And us. I finish my whiskey and set the glass on the coffee table. That's a more complex question. 22 years of marriage versus 6 months of hotel receipts. I'm still calculating the final numbers. My phone buzzes with an email from HR Director Jennifer Walsh. Mira's position eliminated effective immediately. Please advise on severance arrangements given circumstances. I show Mira the message. She reads it twice, then sets the phone down carefully. They're not offering severance, she says quietly. Employees terminated in connection with fraud investigations typically don't receive severance packages, I explain. It's standard corporate policy. The house falls silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Mira sits motionless on the couch, staring at her hands. I study her face, trying to reconcile this defeated woman with the confident, radiant person who stood in our foyer Sunday evening. I need to pack some things, she says finally. Where will you go? My sister's house, probably, until I figure out what comes next. I nod, watching her walk upstairs to our bedroom. 22 years of marriage, and it ends with her packing a suitcase to stay with her sister. But as I sit in our living room, surrounded by the life we built together, I feel something I haven't experienced in months. Peace. The numbers finally add up. The accounts are balanced. The audit is complete. Thursday morning arrives with unexpected sunshine, casting long shadows across our bedroom floor. Mira's side of the bed is empty, sheets pulled tight and pillow fluffed. She's been up for hours, methodically packing her belongings into the same designer suitcase she brought home from Chicago. I find her in the kitchen, sitting at the breakfast table with a cup of coffee and her laptop open. She's scrolling through job listings, her expression focused but grim. Any promising opportunities? I ask, pouring my own coffee. A few possibilities, she replies without looking up, though explaining my recent employment situation might be challenging. Termination in connection with executive fraud does complicate job searches, I agree, settling into my usual chair across from her. We sit in comfortable silence, like we have countless mornings over the past 22 years, but everything is different now. The easy familiarity feels hollow, performed rather than genuine. I've been thinking about what you said last night, Mira begins, closing her laptop, about calculating the final numbers. It's what I do, I reply. Analyze data, identify patterns, determine accurate valuations. And what's your assessment of our marriage? I consider the question carefully. 22 years of shared history. Joint assets including this house, retirement accounts, investment portfolio. Offsetting liabilities including breach of trust, emotional fraud, and reputation damage. You're talking about our marriage like a corporate balance sheet. Because that's how I understand complex situations, I explain. Numbers don't lie or manipulate or make promises they can't keep. They just exist, waiting for proper analysis. Mira stands and walks to the kitchen window, looking out at our backyard. The autumn leaves are turning brilliant colors, creating a beautiful contrast against the gray morning sky. Do you think we can recover from this? She asks quietly. That depends on several factors, I reply. Your willingness to acknowledge the full scope of your deception, my ability to trust your future representations, the practical considerations of rebuilding both our professional and personal reputations. I never meant for things to go this far. But they did go this far, I point out. 6 months of hotel rooms and false explanations, promises of promotions that were never real, plans to travel full-time with another man while maintaining the pretense of our marriage. She turns from the window and I can see tears forming in her eyes again. I felt invisible in our marriage. Grant made me feel important, valued, like I had potential for something more. You've always had potential, I reply, but you chose to pursue it through deception rather than honest conversation. Would you have supported my career ambitions if I discussed them with you? We'll never know, because you chose not to find out. My phone rings, interrupting our conversation. Chairman Peterson's name appears on the caller ID. Good morning, Chairman, I answer. Silas, I hope I'm not calling too early. The board met an emergency session last night to discuss the audit findings and their implications. What did you decide? We're implementing new oversight procedures for all executive expenses and travel. We're also establishing a permanent position for ongoing financial compliance monitoring. I glance at Mira, who's listening intently to my side of the conversation. That sounds like a prudent approach, I agree. We'd like to offer you the position, Peterson continues. Chief Financial Compliance Officer, with full authority to investigate and report on any suspicious activities. Substantial salary increase, equity participation, and complete independence from operational management. The irony is almost overwhelming. While my wife was pursuing career advancement through an affair with her boss, I've been offered a significant promotion through competent professional performance. I'm very interested, I reply. When would you need an answer? Take your time. This is a substantial commitment, and we want to make sure it's the right fit for everyone involved. After hanging up, I explain the offer to Mira. Her expression shifts from sadness to something resembling envy. So, you're getting everything I thought Grant was going to give me, she observes. I'm getting recognition for 20 years of honest professional work, I correct. You were promised rewards for 6 months of personal compromise. That's not fair. Actually, it's perfectly fair. It's the difference between earning advancement and expecting it as payment for other services. Mira returns to the breakfast table, but doesn't sit down. Instead, she stands behind her chair, gripping the back with both hands. I should finish packing, she says finally. My sister's expecting me this afternoon. Will you contest the divorce? I ask. Are you filing for divorce? The marriage ended 6 months ago, I reply. We're just completing the paperwork now. She nods slowly, accepting the finality of the situation. I suppose I deserve that. This isn't about what anyone deserves, I clarify. It's about acknowledging reality and moving forward accordingly. An hour later, I carry her suitcases to her car while she makes final arrangements with her sister. The same designer luggage that returned from Chicago yesterday is now leaving permanently. I'll have my attorney contact you about property division, she says, loading the last bag into her trunk. That's fine. I'll have everything appraised and documented. Of course you will, she replies with a sad smile. You always were thorough with the numbers. I watch her drive away, then return to the house that feels both empty and peaceful. The audit is complete, the irregularities have been identified and corrected, and the accounts are finally balanced. My phone buzzes with a text message from Chairman Peterson. Board vote was unanimous. Welcome to your new position, Chief Keller. I pour myself a fresh cup of coffee and sit at the kitchen table with my laptop, beginning to research the responsibilities and opportunities of my new role. Outside, the autumn sunshine continues to cast long shadows across the yard, but inside, everything is perfectly clear. The numbers always tell the truth, and today the truth is that sometimes the best revenge is simply excellent professional performance. Grant lost his career, his reputation, and his freedom from federal investigation. Mira lost her job, her marriage, and her imaginary promotion. I gained a better position, complete vindication, and the satisfaction of a perfectly executed audit. The final tally couldn't be more clear.